Hey everyone, it's Rita Shamoon, the host of the podcast Wine with Rita. Today, I want to share my love of music and how I intertwine music to help parents understand the power of communication and what they can do to help their child with their communication too. Now, we know these two songs, or I'm sure all of you know these two songs I'm about to reference. The first one is God Rest Her Soul, Whitney Houston. We all know that song, guys. How will I know? Don't make me sing it, but I will. How will I know if he really loves me? Yeah. But listen to the beginning of that song. How will I know? I'm just going to leave you with that. The second song that I love, and it's funny, every time I hear it, I think of work all the time. Mr. Bieber. We love him. Justin Bieber. That song. What do you mean? Now, don't make me sing it, but I'm going to do it. Ready? What do you mean? That's all I can remember. So we have Whitney Houston, How Will I Know? Justin Bieber, What Do You Mean? Now, I know those songs were written to help people in their relationships and understand the power of communication in relationships, right? But whenever I hear those songs, I think of work. How can I get parents to understand the power of communication to help their child out? Now, let's talk about Whitney's song, How Will I Know? Now, she says, how will I know if he really loves me? How will I know if he really cares? I think that's how it goes. When we're working with kids, how will I know what this child is telling me if they don't show me? How would the child know if I don't tell the child or if I don't show the child? We have this assumption that people will learn to communicate instantly. But sometimes children and adults actually need modeling. How will a child know, or how will an individual know if they don't tell you or if they don't show you? So, when I'm working with young kids, particularly school age children, I always encourage them be specific. When we're interacting in a game or an activity, I always sing the phrase, how will I know what to do if you don't tell me? Many kids with communication difficulties use limited sentence lengths, like their sentences are quite short. And the vocabulary that they use is quite limited or sometimes non-specific or ambiguous. They may say words like, oh, you know that thing, yeah, we just get that thing, we just put it over there, over there. And now because they're pointing, I kind of get the gist of where it is. But how will I specifically know with these kids if they don't actually tell me? So Miss Rita in therapy sometimes becomes a bit like the one that needs the support. And well, Miss Rita actually doesn't know. How will I know, buddy, if you don't tell me? How will I know if you don't show me? How will I know if you don't help me? And by transitioning that thought to the child, it encourages them. Oh, we want to help Miss Rita out. We feel sorry for Miss Rita because she doesn't understand. I need to use more words so Miss Rita can help me out. So rather the child using non-specific terms or being quite ambiguous, they would say, Rita or Miss Rita, put the toy on top of the shelf. Put the block under the table. Now, what did that do? By me instilling that phrase, how will I know? It motivated the child to use more specific words that they already know, mind you. They use longer sentences without me nagging them to do it, but more from a place of helping Rita, being more empathetic and supporting me out too. So think about how powerful that can be, especially now we're going to talk about non-speaking kids. How will they know how to communicate if you don't show them? How will they know what words to use if you don't model it? How will they know what to do if you don't engage in the dynamic with them? So when I work with parents, I always say, you're Whitney for the week, guys. I want you to be Whitney, not to say I have nothing, nothing. You know that song? I have nothing. Not that one, but how will I know? Put that in your mind. Every time you're experiencing communication breakdown with your child, think Whitney. Whitney, or Wheater and Whitney, right? Think Wheater and Whitney. How will I know? What can you do in that dynamic with your child to help them understand better, to support their communication better? How will they know what to do if you don't show them? So I love to use that with my clients because A, it's so easy to implement. And if they could implement how will I know in every dynamic or in many opportunities in the day, what would that do? It will then reinstill or instill to the parent, oh, okay, this is all I have to do. I have to show, I have to change my tone of my voice, I have to point, I have to use my words better. And imagine we do that on a daily basis with our kids. It's simple. How will I know? Implement it. That's one strategy I love to use with clients. And I always I think of work when I hear that song on Smooth FM. Now, the next song I always use in therapy by Mr. Bieber, said it earlier. What do you mean? Now, now in relationships, I'm sure we've had people when they actually say no, but it means something else. Or they might, oh, you know, when you get a text and people write back saying K, and you're like, K, does that mean they're angry? Does that mean they're happy? Like add an emoji or like add a bit more to help the meaning of your answer. Because right now I think you're being a bit of a dry person, dry bitch to me with the word K. My sister does that. She writes K or she gives a thumbs up, and that burns my blood when she does that. So when we're thinking of that song, what do you mean? What does she mean by that? What does she mean by that? Add more so I can understand. Now, there's this phrase, what do you mean? We use that with speech sound disorders, particularly phonological impairments. Many kids will produce a word differently to what they're trying to say. And we use the phrase in therapy, what do you mean? To help the child actually say the word that they want. But if a child's saying the word, let me think, this one, cup, right? I've got the word cup. And the child says, and they're pointing, we can model the word firstly and say cup. We go, what do you mean? Do you mean cup or water? Right? So by using that phrase, what do you mean? We're supporting the child to understand what vocab do you want to say rather than just letting the child say with the point. So when we're working with young kids, I always tell parents, think about that phrase by Justin Bieber. What do you mean? But also associate that with the word to help the child out. Even, when kids will say, oh, mum, you know that thing over there? Instantly they're talking about the toy that's on the kitchen bench, right? Before you respond, ask the child, what do you mean? Or what do you mean? Be a bit of a Bieber. What do you mean, that thing over there? Do you mean the bar stool next to the kitchen table, or do you mean your game on the kitchen bench? And mark my word, the child will say one of the words instead of saying the thing or that. And in that moment, you would have helped your child understand the specific word they have to use. You modeled the long sentence for them to understand and use as well. But you've encouraged them to be specific always. Now, I feel like these two phrases, what do you mean or how will I know, really helps kids with vocabulary, but also teaches them that they don't have to always be non-specific all the time, like we thing all that. The power of you modeling and encouraging them to tell you more or be specific or use better, longer sentences helps them do that more. And the more a child accesses that word by themselves or with support even, the more a child says a word, it helps them say it again the next time better. So when you're working with your child or with clients, always think, let's use the phrase, what do you mean? Put that with a support, some support to help the child understand the meaning behind what they're trying to tell you. Now, I know you're going to hear this and you'll probably think or put on Justin Bieber or Whitney Houston's song, but I left a lasting impression where you now know the meaning behind those two songs, the meaning of how you can implement that in your day-to-day practice with your children and your clients, and how powerful those short phrases can change your dynamic with your child or even your clients. So it's not about Whitney. How will I know? As a breakup song, how will a person know what you're trying to let them understand if you're not showing them, if you're not telling them? And with Justin Bieber, what do you mean? Meaning behind words is so powerful. We have to show our kids, show our clients the meaning through our words, through our gestures to help them communicate more effectively. Now, I would love to know if you've loved this episode. Please leave a review, but another solo episode will be brought to your ears really soon. Take care, everyone. Thank you for tuning into another episode of Wine with Weeda. I hope you found some new inspiration, learnt something new, or gained a fresh perspective. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd be so grateful if you please leave a 5-star review, as it really helps the show get in the ears of new listeners, plus it takes 5 seconds. If you're keen for more strategies and insights, then head over to Instagram and follow RS Speech Pathology.